a lot a lot of the time I feel as authors we like to avoid the page as much as we like to write on the page,
Mhm.
and having the person that is your significant other saying, hey, get your ass back in the chair and put some words on the page, that's a huge thing, right? That
Hey, it's Writers Row, where we talk about the writing community on Twitter. We talk about the business side of writing and the creative side. I am your host, DC Wright-Hammer, the sci-fi thriller writer for the Between Two Minds series, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host.
David Gane, who is I am a young adult mystery writer uh, of the Shepherd and Wolf mystery series, the internationally award-winning mystery series. I always have to go for that because it's true.
It's where you get confident. The beginning, you kind of stumble through, but it's okay. Good recovery, and
I just ramp up to greatness. That's what it is.
hey,
That's
we'll
the way
take
I always work.
we'll take what we can get. And side note, I finished your first book,
Oh,
and we talk about it all the time on here, and I don't have it handy because I'm a jerk, but really good stuff. And you're going to be getting a good review from me, so look out for that. And people watching, if you haven't checked out the Along Comes a Wolf, the first book, and David and your co-author,
geez.
Angie, yeah. If you haven't checked it out, you should definitely do that because it's pretty good. It's very
Thank you
good.
very much, DC. I appreciate it.
Yep. Um,
So,
as always, if you guys like what we've been doing on this channel, we do need as many subscriptions and thumbs up as we can get. We're trying to do this for the writing community, and I mean, it's as much for, we like to get on here and do these things, but we really want to help out and do more for the writing community. So the more subscriptions we have, the thumbs up, the more we know the content you all like, more likely we are to do more things like that. So definitely thumbs up. If you've got things you want to tell us about, definitely comment down below. We appreciate that as well.
and even interact with us on Twitter about it. We like hearing about it there as well. So,
For sure.
yeah. So, what are we talking about today, DC?
So we've had a couple of episodes that we've talked about things like marketing and things indie authors can do to kind of establish themselves. But I thought we would actually do a little bit different of an episode and really target and give an outlet for ways that others can support indie authors. So all of our authors that are out there, independent, if they are with a small press or even if they've gone traditional, whatever they've done to get published, I don't think friends and family and the people we hang out with and the people we come across truly understand what it means to support authors and independent authors, particularly because typically they have fewer resources than others in a lot of cases. And so I wanted to spend an episode where we just kind of talk about the different things that others can do. And maybe, if someone's got a significant other out there, a best friend or a mom or a cousin or somebody, and they say, hey, how you wonder, we've talked about my books before and you're wondering how you can support me. Here's this episode of this show. And these two guys just talk about it. And then when they finally reach this part in the video, they're like, hey, they're talking about me. They're talking about me. We're talking to you, person who came across this video, on how you can support the authors that are in your life and how you can help them out, and not just from yeah, your friends and family, you want to help each other out, but it really means a lot. People go through, we put our heart and souls into these books, and so I don't think people really know how to support the authors in their lives, and I'd like to give us an outlet and discuss it for the next however many minutes.
We'll keep it tight though and quick, right?
Yeah, we'll see where it goes.
So I think the number one thing that you can do is, of course, buy the books, right?
Yeah.
That should be the starting point. Should they? Is that the starting point, do you think?
Well, I think, yes, I do.
Okay.
I think even if it's just the ebook and they never intend to read it, it's a token of appreciation. It's showing that you took a little bit of interest. It's $3, $4, maybe $5, $6, depending on the ebook. But I think it is. It just shows a little bit of support. Hey, you picked up a copy.
It's funny because my writing partner and her brother and my wife's brother, we knew he would never read the book, but I convinced him to buy the book just to show his support. And I think he's bought every book, but I know he's never read any of them.
Yeah, and
it's nice. I knew going in he would never read it, but he still supported us by buying it.
And we're not, so, obviously if you're against the book, if you don't, like if you're truly friends and family and you want to support them, buy the book. But you can also, it doesn't just have to be buy the book. If you buy a paperback, it doesn't just have to sit on your shelf. If you know somebody who likes the genre or might like the story, buy a copy to support the author. And then now you've purchased a gift. You don't have to purchase in the future. You supported an indie author, you supported a small business, and you've run an errand by buying that book. You don't have to go pick up a gift that you can give that next person that you were talking to. I think people underestimate, buying those books as gifts and saying, even say, hey, have the author, if you buy it from me, you're going to give it as a gift, have the author put the other person's name in it. Like, hey, I'm buying this for my nephew, or I'm buying this for a friend, and autograph it. It'll be really cool when I hand it to him and say, I know an author. Like, people do get a kick out of that, even if we're just independent authors and we're like, okay, I'll do this.
We do it all the time. It's one of my favorite things where you will see the person come by, they're interested, and then we're trying to pitch to them about the book, and they're like, yeah, I don't actually read mysteries, but my husband will read it. And so then that's how we end up doing it. So yeah. And then I went, now that, let's say that the person buys the book, they've got it, they're actually buying it for themselves. I think the next step would definitely be to read the book. Absolutely. Right? So as soon as not as soon as, we all have our big to be read piles of books.
Right.
But even to be put into the to be read pile is actually a nice thing, right? You are at some point going to be picked up and be acknowledged and read.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's that even just now, you telling me that you read the book made me feel really good.
Right, exactly. And even if nothing else comes of it other than they read the book and they might mention that they read the book, that's profound. And all the work we put into it, like we talked about, the blood, sweat, tears, the hours, the choice of alcohol that you consume the entire time. No, none of us do that. We're only drinking coffee. That's all we drink.
And water.
Right. Stay hydrated.
Or this is vodka, one or the other.
No, just hearing people, it feels like they spend time with you. I remember looking at Kindle, and it said the average reader, it takes 7 hours and 20 minutes for them to finish my ebook. And knowing how many people have actually, and there's some people who read it faster and some people who read it slower, but it feels like they spent that time with me, even if even if it was just my words on paper. It feels like we hung out in this weird virtual way. And that's really cool. So people reading the book is great. And then the obvious progression after that is, after they read it, and this is the gold standard for independent authors in particular, is review the book. Honestly, 2-3 sentences. You don't have to write a novel. Give it a star rating. Be honest. Put it out there on Amazon, Goodreads, any other sites that they might ask for. Those things are huge. Again, it means that you did read it in most cases. And it meant that you put some thought into it, and you're sort of giving back to the writer by giving that review. Doesn't have to be a story, just a quick, entry into there. You want to know the truth. You want to be honest. Put it out there for the world to see that you read the book and help out the author.
Okay, so what if the person gives you a shitty review, 1 star? Because I think you can't go 0 stars, but you can give a 1 star, right? 1 star, sucks, don't read this.
So if you're going to give a critical review like that, I would say at least make it like 4 or 5 sentences on what's wrong with it.
But
Like,
what if they don't? What it, how does that treat you as the author? Like maybe they hate you. Maybe they have a grudge. Maybe your ex-girlfriend came out of the woodwork and didn't even read the book and just said, "Hey, this sucks." 1-star review. How does that work?
well, okay, so that's sort of beyond the scope of the episode, but in that scenario,
Oh,
yeah, you can't help that. And honestly, if you get big enough, like if you have 2 or 3 reviews or 10 reviews even, that one is going to be somewhat of a blemish. You can report those if they're,
yeah. What if
abusive or spoilers.
you have a good reason? Let's go with that. What if
Yeah.
a friend of yours read it, didn't like it, and said that honestly in the review and gave you like a 2 or a 3-star?
Yeah. No, it's another review and someone read it and you can't ask for much more than it. You can't manipulate. You don't want them to lie. You don't want them to embellish. If they want to do those things, that's on them. Like, but you don't ask for that. There's a sort of honor system that you have, you hope to have, amongst people who support you and yourself, and they can be honest. And maybe they give you a good review and then pull you aside and say something like, "Oh, I saw those editing mistakes," or whatever. All that's helpful. That's actually good. In fact, I would put that in a do, is send them a message, a private message, or pull them aside. If you have true critiques of the book, you're free to put them in a review. But I think what would be even more helpful is to say, "I spent all this time in this book. I thought it was great. Here's some parts where I think you can improve." And that's huge. And that actually brings me to another point about talking, which is if you want to support an author, talk about their books, talk about the books with them. Ask them about the book. If you've read it, talk to them about the parts you liked. If you're planning on getting their next book, you can talk about that. Talk to them, talk to your friends about it. Hey, and I actually it was a funny story. I had 2 friends who worked at the same office, and I didn't realize it. And one of them was talking about my book to another coworker, and the other friend heard, and they're like, "Are you talking about DC's book?" And she's like, "Yeah, I got that book too." And like that was the coolest, like organic interaction I had ever heard about. And then they talked to me about it separately. They're like, "Hey, so and so was talking about your book, and I heard about it." Like that's really cool to hear. It's like similar to them telling you that they've read your book. If they're even just talking about it and creating a buzz, I think that's really cool.
Fair enough. I one of those things that I find is the best way for us as authors to find new readers. For me, it's less about the reviews and it's just having people talking to other people and convincing them, because most people will be willing to pick up a book if they get a recommendation from another friend or family member. That tends to be considered one of the best ways to kind of convince somebody who may or may not even be interested or know about your book to carry on. So yeah, for me, talking about a book is the best thing in the world. And when you're an author and you hear people talking about it, that's fantastic. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I do also like being accosted in grocery stores, which is what happened this weekend, and being asked what's going to happen in the next book. So any form of that kind of talking about it is for me good.
Yeah, I tweeted about this, but I'll talk about it here. Like random things like that is really cool. I had a guy. This is totally random. I had a guy over giving me a quote on new carpeting. He was just like he did the measurements and everything, and then in passing, I just like, "Hey, I write sci-fi novels in my spare time," and he's like, "Whoa, really?" He's like, "I do set design for movies and TV," and like set design, he was doing set design on Electric Dreams, which is a Philip K. Dick show that's on Amazon Prime, and he's like, yeah, he started name dropping all kinds of sets that he's put together. So he not only does carpeting, but he does set design for all this in his spare time. And my marketing sort of light bulb went off, and I'm like, this guy's going away with a signed copy. And I totally gave him a signed copy. And I'm like, dude, I'd really appreciate it if you just gave this a read and a review, and then, hand it to anybody that you talk to that think you might like it or something like that. And he, like, that interaction was super cool. He was like, I can't believe you wrote a book. And then I told him, I'm like, I wrote two. He's like, oh my gosh, you wrote two books. That's so cool. And he's like, I'll totally give it a read and review. And like little things like that, those kind of interactions, that was with a stranger. That wasn't like a friend of me trying to support me.
Yeah,
And it cost me all of one book, but that cool interaction, it feeds the drive to write more, to publish more, to get more books out, to interact with more people, because those kind of interactions are super cool. So yeah, don't put strangers past the supportive aspect of this too. They could support you as well, obviously.
absolutely. And actually, this kind of ties into another thought, which is the idea of just doing book clubs. And, you may be you as a reader may have a group of people that you have a book club with. You can bring your book to that book club. The one that happened to Ange and I'm trying to remember, I think it was 3 months ago, 2 months ago, we did, it was a pop-up farmers market, and it was it was really cold. Like I was freezing. But out of that day, and we had very few people come out of that day, the people who bought the book decided that they were going to start a book club to read our book.
Wow.
And that's how it kind of came about. And just as a side note, I saw this last year, 2 years ago, where you can also put packages of your books together, put it in a bag, give some like starter questions about what you could talk about, that kind of thing. That really is helpful as well when you're trying to do to promote the idea of a book club.
Well, and yeah, and I've been toying with putting together book club packages, including like swag and pricing at the right price. But also included in that is, if they're local, like I will do an author visit and we could talk
Yeah,
about the book after you're done, or I'll Skype if it's not local. And so I think if you're trying to support an author in your life and you have a book club, definitely suggest that book to the book club and take it to the next level and invite the author to that book club to have a discussion about it and ask questions. And if it's a book in a series, when's the next book coming out, or what's going to happen next, and start to get some insight, because that's fun. That's fun for, even if I was in a book club, to have the writer come there and like, kind of banter back and forth with them. But it's fun for the author too. Those things are awesome. Talking about our characters in our worlds that we've built, in the things that have happened. So it's definitely a very good way to support authors that are in your life. I wanted to shift to specifically talk to the significant others that might be watching this, because I think significant others can be very awesome. They could be your partners and help you be the best author you can be. On the flip side, if they don't understand it, if they don't like writing, if they don't like reading, if they're combative and things like that, I think it could be difficult for that relationship if you're truly a passionate author and you want to publish and your significant other is just not on board. But some things to do, or some perspectives to have to support the author. If you have a significant other that's an author, act like it's a part-time job, like it's not a hobby. It's, don't think of it as just a hobby. It's a passion. It's a thing that they like to do, that gives them, that makes them feel fulfilled outside of anything else they might be doing. So I think significant others, you can definitely be helpful here and give them some space. If you have kids, set aside, agree to set aside however much time, an hour or 2 hours. Obviously, if they're trying to take advantage of it and not do some of their responsibilities, that's not okay. As authors, we can get, we can write too much sometimes, I suppose. But help out that way. And then the other thing I was going to say on significant others is if you're interested and if it's possible, help with some of the non-writing things. If you can help with marketing, if you can help with getting the word out, if you can be their biggest cheerleader, that's going to be helpful for them as an author. I think it's going to be helpful for you as a relationship because you're showing an interest and a passion that they have. It's like anything else. Like if they were passionate about football, you might watch the game with them and cheer. They're passionate about writing, you want to cheer with them, you want to help them out. And as much as anything, like all the time and effort, and you might even hear them talking about fictional characters that they're stressing over. You can play a pivotal role in helping them out.
Also, I think even just to motivate them, a lot of the time, I feel as authors, we like to avoid the page as much as we like to write on the page. Mm-hmm. And having the person that is your significant other saying, hey, get your ass back in the chair and put some words on the page. That's a huge thing, right? That's not just a cheerleader for the books and the author, that's cheerleader for doing the work. So I think that's important too. So do you have some no-nos or don'ts that you want to include in here?
Yeah. When I was putting my list together, I realized I had some things that you want to avoid. And I already said a couple of them, but if you're trying to support an author, like, don't every time you see them tell them you're going to buy their book and read it and just like never do it. Like, because that's just like
it's
not
ghosting
cool.
them kind of thing.
It's not cool. And I know people aren't like malicious with it. They probably literally or genuinely are like interested. It's cool when they see you. You're that author person. They're very inspired when they see you. If you say you're going to buy their book, if you say you're going to read the book, if you say you're going to review the book, just be a good person, make a good choice, and help them out and do it. If you're not interested, that's okay too. You could talk to them about everything. You don't have to guarantee you're going to go buy every copy or do anything. You can talk to them about it. You can be inspired by them, but don't say you're going to buy it and read it just to like do this nicety thing and move on. As an author, like you get over that. There's a phase where you're like, oh, that person said they were going to read it and they didn't do it. Like, because
I don't care.
Well,
you don't want to read it, you don't have to read it.
Exactly. And you don't get that, especially new authors. New authors, every opportunity for a reader like is so exciting that it could be just as crushing if somebody says they're going to do something and they don't. And then you realize that that's just life. Like, people are going to do it. But if somebody's watched this long into this episode and they're looking to support people, that's one way to that's something to avoid is if you say you're going to buy it, buy it. If you say you're going to read it, read it. If you say you're going to review it, just review it. Just do it. So just whatever, just.
Okay. Here's another one that it sounds, I don't know. Well, I'll say it. It's don't be cheap, which means, if they're selling the book, don't try and bargain them down. They put work into this. They put time, they put work, and some of them put finances into it. So, if it's up for sale, don't be like, yeah, I'll give it to you for $5 or whatever if they're trying to sell it for 10 or whatever, right? And some of these authors will give some deals at certain times, then try and take advantage of it. Follow their newsletter, which is something we didn't include. Follow their newsletter, follow them on social media, retweet, all those kind of things. But yeah, this is a business. It's they basically made a product for you to trade. Right. With cash, right? So, don't be chintzy about it, whatever it is.
If someone's an independent author and they've self-published, don't ask them if they're ever going to become a real author. Do not do that. And I'm betting anyone who's watching this portion of the video knows that, but that has come up. Like, oh, you self-published. Oh, do you ever plan on going the real way of publishing? And the thing is good books and bad books are independently published and self-published, and good books and bad books come out of traditionally published means. And so I think you have to judge the book by its content, and you have to actually read it and find out if it's good or not. And so do not belittle any independent authors or self-published ones out there by saying something like that.
Okay, DC. This is like the big question, big lightning round. I don't know. It's not a lightning round, but this is the thing. Why do say I'm a friend of you as you're an author. I'm not an author in this scenario, and you're saying all this to me. Why do I have to listen to any of this? What does it really matter? I think you're a fine writer, and that's good and okay. What does it really matter?
Well, I think
defend yourself, DC.
If you truly want to support the authors in your life. If you don't, if you're not passionate about supporting your friends and family or this author that you know, that's okay. Like, we're not for everybody. We might not write the genre you like. You might not like our style of writing. You might not like a lot of things about us, and that's okay. Move on. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're truly looking to support an author, there are ways to do it. My cat supports this show and me by being extra loud at about this time every episode.
We're supposed to drink, aren't we?
I guess so.
Water.
And sure. But we're not for everybody. And that's one of the troubles or one of the struggles as small name, independent, and independently published and small press published. If we don't have the marketing budget, people don't know about us. So we have to weed through all the people who aren't going to like us just to find the small segment that are probably going to like us or might like us enough to buy the book, and so on and so forth. So there you go.
And on that meow.
Yes. In this show, right? Meow.
Is it gonna? Yeah, never mind. I'm not even gonna try.
All right. Well, that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you very much, DC, for another fun episode.
Yep. I don't even have anything. Oh, Wright-Hammer.com.
Oh, yes.
That has my books on it. I'll send them autographed, and I'll just stop there. That's good enough.
And check me out at CouniousandGane.com, COUNIOS, and Gane, GANE. And it's all down below in the diddly-doos, right?
It will be.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you very much. Bye.